Hello, Duncan here, physiotherapist at the Sussex Back Pain Clinic, and today I want to talk about the question, is lifting weights or strength training good or bad for your back pain? So many of my patients, particularly older patients, are starting to learn the incredible health benefits of strength training, and recent large-scale studies have indicated that weight training is particularly good for things like increased muscular strength and size and a significant reduction in the majority of chronic diseases. So simply put, it's really, really good for you. In terms of back pain, you may have heard conflicting results on whether or not lifting weights is good or bad for back pain. You know, some people like to claim it's a magical elixir that's gonna fix all your issues. And some people say, no, it's a terrible idea and all you're gonna do is herniate a disc and put yourself in an even worse position. So, what's the truth? So just to clarify a bit of a cultural misconception that a lot of people have, strength training is simply any exercise performed with the purpose of increasing the strength of any part of the body. And it's really important to note that when we are strength training, we're not just, pumping up our muscles and making them bigger and stronger, but we're also increasing the strength and resilience of the tendons, the ligaments, and also increasing our bone density. So all really valuable stuff in terms of injury prevention. So in my opinion, as a physiotherapist who also has a lot of experience with strength training exercises can be extremely valuable for people with back pain. Now, there is one caveat to this, which I'm going to outline later, but generally, yes, it is normally quite a good idea. This is for two main reasons. Firstly, you get all those overall incredible health benefits that I outlined earlier. And secondly, if you load the tissues in a strategic and properly planned manner, you do build their resilience against future injury. The key element with this is finding your Goldilocks zone of intensity. So this means you need to be training or lifting weights, strength training, with enough difficulty or intensity to elicit some sort of response. If you don't do enough, there'll be no adaptive change in the body. However, you need to not do too much as to put yourself at risk of injury. So just like Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, just right. We need to find your just right in terms of training intensity. Now, it's really important to note that what constitutes just right is going to vary significantly person to person, and also is going to develop and progress throughout your rehabilitation. So for someone in the very early stages of the rehab process, simply lying on the ground and lifting one leg up might be sufficiently difficult to constitute strength training. Whereas for someone much further down the line of rehabilitation, they may need more challenging exercises that look a bit more like gym exercises, things like doing squats or lunges or deadlifts. What's really important to note, and often gets lost in translation, is that all of these exercises fall under the banner of strength training. They simply lie at opposite ends of the spectrum of challenge or difficulty. The issue I find is that when it comes to strength training, this idea can sometimes get a little bit lost, and a lot of people think the only type of strength training is extreme. So they get put off by ideas of, giant behemoths walking around in their underpants, flexing their big muscles, or people, straining and grunting and, forcing themselves to lift the heaviest weight they possibly can off the floor. The truth is, in reality, in the spectrum of strength training, nothing could be further from the truth. This is why circling back to that definition of strength training is really valuable. It's simply any exercise performed with the intention of strengthening that part of the body. So what exercise is going to be appropriate for you will simply depend on the current level that you are at. One of my favorite things about strength training is its huge amount of variety. So if you don't like barbells, you can use your body weight, you can use dumbbells, you can use kettlebells. There's machines, plate-loaded machines, pin-loaded machines, TRX machines, all sorts of tools that you can use to achieve the same goal. So if you don't like an exercise, there's always an alternative that will give you similar results. Now, earlier on, I mentioned a caveat that I want to touch on now. So In some instances, a person displays a movement dysfunction that is so severe or significant enough that it needs to be corrected before we start to load and strengthen the tissues that are associated with that movement pattern. The best example I can come up with this for back pain patients is spinal flexion, bending forward to reach towards your toes. A lot of people with back pain struggle with this movement, particularly in the earlier or sort of subacute phases of their rehab. So if you struggle to bend forward and reach towards your toes, let's say you can only get just past your knees or something like that without discomfort, we probably want to work on improving that movement pattern before we start to load those tissues and try and strengthen those tissues. Essentially, we don't want to be building a loft extension onto the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We want to straighten it up just a little bit first. We don't want to be building on dysfunction. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to have to do thousands of hours of yoga and stretching and, be able to contort yourself into Cirque du Soleil worthy positions before you can start loading and strengthening your tissues. However, there are some basic standards of movement that should be met before it's time to build up those muscles, tendons, ligaments, and bone density. Fortunately, the team at the Sussex Back Pain Clinic are highly skilled at movement assessment, and we can identify your movement dysfunctions and help you correct them before you start building on that dysfunction with strength training. If you're interested in exploring the benefits of strength training for your general health and back pain, you are not alone. If you're also concerned about doing it correctly or not sure how to get started, don't worry. Give us a call at the clinic and we can help you to formulate a plan that allows you to develop a strength training program that gives you all of the benefits with none of the risks. And I promise you might even learn to enjoy it. I'll see you at the clinic.